Hello, I'm Jake Boudrot, Civic Journalist at Tello Community Television. With me today is Richmond Warden Amanda Mombourquette, who's seeking re-election in District 4, a district that's covering the communities of River Bourgeois, St. Peter's, Sampsonville, and up to Grand Grave. Welcome to Tello.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question, and it's a question I've been asking the others, I know you're well known in not just District 4, but the municipality as well, you know, serving as warden for the past 4 years. But I spoke with the returning officer the other day, and he said that there's more voters on the list now than there was in 2020, so we've had some new residents.
Yeah.
And there might be some younger voters who might not know you as well, so maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've lived in Grand Grave for the past 24 years, myself and my husband Floyd. We raised our 2 kids there, Ryan and Julia. They're all grown up and gone now, so Floyd and I are empty nesters, and council has been my new baby the last 4 years. So yeah, we have, personally I've worked in the field of economic and business development for probably close to 25 years. I don't like to try to count the years too much, you know, that gets a little stressful. But you know, it's always been in my background to be working in the community and working for the community. The idea, you know, for me is that if we can make our communities prosper, then we'll all have a better quality of life there. So that's been my focus for the last several decades. And I've also done a lot of volunteer work in the community. So things like I chaired Village on the Canal Association for a very long time, following the footsteps of Eva Landry, whose shoes were very difficult to fill. You know, I also help out with Pirate Days, and we do our Christmas in the Village, the Christmas tree event. We do Festival of Trees. So many things going on, and I really find that being part of those types of programs and those parts of those types of events, it's really fulfilling, and it helps keep you connected to what's important to people, right? You're having conversations and gathering people together, and that feeling of social belonging that comes from that is it's really rewarding. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I'm a St. of X grad for those who are familiar with St. of X, and see lots of X rings floating around Richmond County. So it's nice to be part of that club.
What in your life experiences and the skills you've acquired in your lifetime do you think are a good fit for you to be a member of, or to be re-elected to be on municipal council? Yeah,
so honestly, running for election in 2020 for me felt like a very natural next step in terms of what I was doing with my career. I had, like I said, worked in economic development for a very long time, in and around a lot of municipal councils through organizations like the Strait Highlands Regional Development Agency, where I had the pleasure of working with many previous councillors from all of the counties in the region. Also, you know, having run the Strait Area Chamber of Commerce for almost 5 years. That was an experience that really demonstrated to me the impact that policy development can have on the everyday lives of people. Whether you're a business or a resident here, the decisions of local government directly impact you, and they impact you quickly. So it became very evident to me as I was kind of watching what was happening in Richmond County. There's no question the municipal unit here was in a state of dysfunction and disarray. And so it really drove me to take the next step, put my name on the ballot, and run in 2020.
You just mentioned that you were first elected 4 years ago, and then named warden.
Right.
Why did you decide to re-offer this time around?
Well, because I think we've made some really great progress. We've reestablished Richmond County, I would say, across the province. We're recognized now as a council and a county that works well together. You know, we've been able to reestablish our grants program. When people come into our council chambers, they'll often comment to me on how approachable the council is now, how respectful we are in council chambers and to each other. It makes it possible now for people to engage and feel good about being engaged with the municipality, whether they're sitting on as volunteers on committees or or participating in, we did some strategic planning sessions. People feel good about contributing now. And so that's something that it took us 4 years to build back into our county, and I don't want to see it slip away. I'm really committed to continuing to make that progress so that we can continue to be productive together, you know, and to, you know, plan going forward. You know, when I think about the opportunities ahead for Richmond County and the challenges we face, they're really very connected in my mind. You know, I think about all of the hydrogen production facilities that are being planned for Point Tupper and the current, you know, industries that we have there, like Port Hawkesbury Paper and Cabot Gypsum and PHP. And, you know, I think about all that opportunity on the horizon, but what that means for the everyday resident when they're trying to figure out how to pay their power bill or their, you know, food bill is that if we can do things like that from an economic development perspective, keep our taxes low, then we will contribute to affordability here in Richmond County for everyone. So that's really, at the end of the day, why I want to run again, and that I'm hopeful that I'll be reelected.
You hit on it, on what I was just going to ask about. As you see it right now, what are some of the main issues facing or that the council has to deal with?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I'll tell you what I hear most about. Some of these things are in our control, some of them are not. I hear about people's property assessment values have gone up dramatically, especially in the last 2 years, which is why council has chosen not to increase our tax rate at all. The bottom line is we have no control over what value properties are assessed at in Richmond County. It's a provincial corporation that makes those determinations on a whole variety of factors. So one of the things that I've been doing is trying to connect people to when their assessments come out, this is how you appeal, call this number, you know, and hopefully they can find some relief there. At the end of the day, the things we do have control over were the tax rate. So we've kept that, you know, steady. We have not increased it in the last 2 years. We had to in the first couple because we needed to build some capacity back into our municipality, which had been largely gutted by cost-cutting measures. And people were not happy with how the municipality was functioning. So we had to make some changes in that regard. But once we saw the assessments go up, again, like I said, outside of our control, but still, we wanted to do what we could to address it. And in that regard, we also developed a low-income property tax exemption for folks who would not qualify for other provincial-type programs and of that type. We've put that in place to make sure no one falls through the cracks here. I think, you know, other things that are really important to people is that, you know, they're trying to figure out how to pay their power bill, and they're trying to figure out how to pay their food bill. And sometimes people are having to make choices. I hear about that. I hear a lot about the cost of rent properties in our county, and how people are really struggling to find affordable renting solutions. And so when you think about the function of a municipality, really, it's about creating policy that benefits the whole municipality, not just the district we live in. But what does that mean in terms of action and impact on the ground? And a really clear example of that is the strategy that council took after 2020 to do a building assessment on the West Richmond Education Centre. We looked at options that we could have put in place to designate it specifically for housing. We were able to issue an RFP, and we just saw, of course, that Brela Construction is starting to, they were the successful bidder, and now they're starting to do work on that facility to create some seniors housing. So that's the kind of impact that a municipal council can have that I think is so incredibly powerful. You know, we talk a lot about policy, and we talk a lot about bylaw development, that type of thing, and land use planning. But at the end of the day, where it really the rubber hits the road is on how does it improve the quality of life for Richmond County residents, and that's a great example of the direction I think that this council has taken. We stuck with it. It took years to get the title cleared, to get all of that, all of those provisions put in place. But 4 years later, we're seeing it come to fruition. And when I think about the issues that I hear from people about, it is related to things like housing. It's related to things like being able to pay their power bill. It's related to things like having to make difficult choices and the state of roads. And so again, some outside our control, some inside. And what we're doing as a municipal council, I'm really proud to say, is that over the last 4 years, we've looked for ways to help problem solve for our constituents, and I think that's the best you can hope for. You
touched on the solutions and strategies, I guess, basically, so you kind of preempted my next question. But my next question would be, and you kind of outlined that as well, what are your priorities for the upcoming term? You mentioned housing, you mentioned some of the issues that are happening now, but there's things down the road that I guess could happen and things that could develop over the next 4 years or become bigger issues than they are now.
Yeah. So I'll start by, I guess, referring to the platform that I'm running on. It's, people will look and they'll see it's exactly the same as what it was in 2024, or in 2020. It's about improving services, it's about planning for growth and creating positive change. And the reason I've stuck with those 3 pillars is because it's not something you're going to achieve in a one term. These are long-term goals that I think we need to set our sights on. And they cover kind of a broad, kind of overarching spectrum, right? As opposed to specifically, we're worried about housing. So when I looked at what the work is that we've achieved over the last 4 years, and I look at what I'm hearing from people, that are things they're worried about, what's keeping them up at night. It really still continues to fall into those categories. Where I think you're going to see specifically us, where I would like to see anyway, us specifically doing work on is a more robust emergency management planning. We've got some great staff in place now for that work. We're starting to get our voluntary vulnerable persons registry together, looking at emergency planning, not just in terms of what we can do within the county, but also are there other stakeholders we could be connected with, other municipalities or local governments that we could be connected with to do more robust planning. That's the direction I would like to see us moving in for sure. Richmond County has experienced some, and Nova Scotia in general has experienced what I was calling the 3 Fs, right? It was floods, fires, and friggin' snow. And, if there was ever any demonstration of the volatility in our climate and how it impacts people who are either seniors or vulnerable in some way, or even, folks like me who we need to get out to go to work every day, it was pretty impactful. And we lost a lot of sleep over that, I think, as a province, and certainly here in Richmond. I feel like we dodged a big bullet with Hurricane Fiona. We had some damage in our county, but the eye of that storm rolled over us, and we were miraculously spared. And I think, in a large degree, not all parts, but, I think we need to be better prepared in the future for climate emergencies that occur. So I'd like to see some work going on in that regard. I'd like to see us continue to work on affordable housing solutions. Although that's not directly a municipal responsibility, there are certain types of policies and actions that we could be taking to put things in place that will help. Working in partnership with our provincial and federal partners is really critical to those types of successes as well. I'd like to see additional, when it comes to those types of partnerships, additional work done on roads, taking a look at what is the strategy for road maintenance in Richmond County and how we can support the provincial resources that are available. So I think we need to be continuing to engage with other levels of government to try to make things better in Richmond. We are all in this together, whether you work for the municipality or the province or the feds, or we're all residents here, and so it makes a lot of sense, I think, and we'll have better success if we have that collaborative approach. It's one of the reasons, Jake, that I feel very strongly about the fact that municipalities are nonpartisan. It gives us the ability to be able to effectively work with whoever is in power at those other levels. It doesn't matter who, as long as we're a council that is willing to build relationships with all types of parties. I think that will bode well for our success in the future.
When I had the returning officer for Richmond County, Claire Rankin, in the other day, he talked about some of the changes to the districts. And your district, which again includes River Bourgeois, River Tillard, St. Peter, Sanseville up to Grand Greve, there were some changes to the boundaries.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to talk about that so people know what district they belong to.
Yeah, so there have been some changes, and as I'm sure folks are aware, every 8 years municipalities are required under provincial legislation to conduct a boundary review. So a couple of years ago we reviewed the number of councillors that we felt needed to be seated around the council table, as well as what the districts should look like. So those are the two I guess factors that were inside the scope of the review. So when we looked at that, we stuck with the 5 councillors. We did a lot of community consultation on it, and it resulted in some district changes. And there are a whole series of criteria that we must consider when we're doing those recommendations. And I should clarify, those were recommendations to the UARB. the county council does not get to make the decision on the number of councillors and what the districts look like. It's the Utility and Review Board that has the final say in that. So the recommendations that we made tried to fix some of the misalignment, I guess, or the confusion that had happened in some areas. And one of those areas was particularly in Grand Grave, which happens to be where I live, but down the Grand Grave Road in particular, it kind of depended on how far down you were, which side, and people were generally, feeling a little confused about which district that they should be voting in. So, with the population shifts, we saw kind of some need to change on that end, but also on the, kind of more towards Thibaultville and then around Corbett's Cove. So what the changes have resulted in primarily for District 4 is that District 4 now includes all of, Sampsonville, St. Peter's, right up to the farthest end of Grand Grave now. So just about where the Three Island Cove Road is. I'm talking with my hands, but you get the drift. And there's been some slight adjustments in other areas as well around the Corbett's Cove area. It cuts off a little sooner than that. But it's all in an effort to try to keep the number of people in each district kind of within a comparative amount of the other districts. So we were targeting a plus or minus 10%, and I think we got in some areas like plus or minus 13. So we did the best that we could with those boundary reviews, and I know it hasn't made everyone happy. There's definitely been some concerns expressed to me, but again, it's always going to be a moving target. We have to review it every 8 years, and frankly, the population numbers are what they are. I'll be really interested to see what the next boundary review does, because I have a strong feeling that following the next census data, we're gonna see some shifts in population here in Richmond County, and hopefully for the better. So yeah, that's essentially been the result of the change, is that Grand Grave now is fully included in District 4, as well as some tweaks on the other areas as well.
I know that you decided some time ago that you were going to run again, and I was just wondering, how have you been spending your time on the campaign trail thus far, and what are your plans for the coming weeks and days?
Yeah, so the coming weeks and days, I'm going to be pretty intensively doing some door knocking. So if I haven't visited you yet, stay tuned. I will probably be knocking on your door. Or if I miss you, I've been asking people, please do reach out. It's probably not going to be possible for me to get everywhere, but definitely making an effort. But some of the things that I've also done is, we've taken advantage of the awesome opportunity that Tellil has offered, done some recordings, been working on a social media campaign as well. So we're seeing lots of shares of really great content on social media right now, and thanks to the folks who are supporting that work. I also prepared, folks will receive a rack card that has some information about, where they can vote and when the voting dates are. So that's going, I think that went out this week actually to every mailbox in District 4. So folks should have that by now if they're checking their mail. Also had a really cool request from the grade 8 class, a couple students from the grade 8 class at East Richmond Education Centre. They're working on a municipal government project. And so I put together a little piece for them that kind of talked about a little background on myself, but also talked about, what the role of municipal government has been and could be, and gave some information about, if you can vote when you're 18, and so, that it's nonpartisan and all of that good stuff. So I was really excited that they had reached out and were interested in, I guess, learning a little bit more about municipal government. Elections are really a great opportunity for creating those teachable moments. So congrats to the teachers at that school for taking advantage of it.
I'd like to thank you for coming in. I know you're busy, as you just noted, and I appreciate you making some time for us to come here and answer my questions.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.